Well, good evening, folks. Hope you're well. Oh, really hot. I shouldn't moan, really, because being in the sun today, as you can tell. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for the previous comments. I was very tired yesterday, so hopefully this night will be better for us. Ain't life funny when you look at it, really? They do say that you should never judge a book by its cover. You know, all these wonderful little quips that we have stored up in our brain. Look before you leap. A stitch in time saves nine. I remember my grandmother coming out with such things. Excuse me. Anyway, there's a lot of truisms, isn't there, really? But and one of the funniest things was when somebody described something odd, and they said it's like a cat barking or a dog meowing. And I chuckle. I have my little titter I do at such things inside because I can imagine these things. And I know why I imagine them because I'm going to tell you a little story. Oh dear, whether I should. Okay. When I finished with my Dutch girlfriend, as I'd done a previous video about, I went on a bit of a shag fest, I suppose is the nicest way to put it as a youngster. I had to get it out of my system, if you know what I mean, mentally, not physically. That too, but anyway, I went through girlfriends like a knife through butter. Anyone would do, almost. I was just so, I suppose I was angry. And I became a bit of a, dare I say, misogynist, woman hater. But I didn't hate them. But I certainly had different opinion on them because the Dutch girl had taught me so much about learning to grow up and realise that I don't get my own way all the time. A good lesson to learn. But equally, sometimes things ain't what they seem on the surface. And she was terrific on the surface, but the core of her being was, I think, a little bit unsavoury. We'll leave it at that. Anyway, lesson learned. So I had this misogynistic streak. I was an angry young man. And I just went on a dating fest. Not one night stands, but more or less 2 or 3 day stands interspersed throughout the months. Perhaps 4 or 5 times. And at that time, speed dating wasn't around, the internet wasn't around, and this sort of thing. It was hard work. So, you know, it was finding a target-rich environment, which is what I did for a while. Since I worked in a hospital, there's plenty of nurses. Yeah. Anyway, talk about beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it is skin deep, I warn you. And, sorry, I'm just laughing because I know what's coming. How can I explain this without coming across as a complete pig? Difficult. This is all my formative years, as you understand, my apprenticeship of learning to be not so much a misogynist, but woman savvy, if you get me. I wasn't going to be hurt again. I was on my guard. And I had this cocoon around myself a little bit. And I was frightened to commit. And it was a case of find 'em, feel 'em, F 'em, forget 'em. And I went through this little phase, and I'm not going to labour the point. I suppose I was learning. I was on a very steep learning curve. And it was novelty, novelty, novelty. But I did eventually clap eyes on the most stunning girl, and I didn't know her. And she was a physiotherapist, very fit in all ways. And I admired her from afar. And I thought, it's too good to be true, really. She wouldn't want to go out with a nerd like me. Look at me, you know. I was 9.5 stone wet, She was fit, man, I tell you. Fit, and beautiful. And intellectual as well, I'd heard. And my mate said, I'll get you a date with her. I said, oh, don't be silly, I don't stand a chance. Oh, come on, I know her really well, she's a nice girl. But he had this wry smile when he was telling me. I said, come on, what do you know about her? He said, I know little about her, but I know I'm seeing her this afternoon. I'll tell her, do you want a date or not? Yeah, of course I do. What are you going to say about me? Don't you leave that to me, Fatal. I'll big you up. Well, I needed bigging up. And I'll tell you, she was fit. I said, okay, well, tell her that, it's a bit like the Charles Dickens film, Barkis is Willing, or Marcus is Willing. It is Barkis, actually, I think. When he wants to get married eventually, doesn't he, Barkis? Well, I was willing, all right, you're not kidding. I'd be a fool not to. And he come knocking on my door one night, said, it's on, she's up for a meet. This is where you can meet and be there or be square. Don't let me down. I've sold you to her. She is absolutely looking forward to. I thought, oh, you angel, I really owe you one. You God, you. Oh. So I owed him. I thought, yeah. Blind date. But it's not so blind, really. It's just that we hadn't spoken. And I think she'd seen me from afar, and I'd certainly seen her, I wish, close up, but I hadn't. But I'd seen her enough to whet my appetite. And I'm burying my soul here, I hope you appreciate this. And come the allotted time, I was so impatient. I wasn't going out till 7 o'clock, 7:30, 7-ish at this bar. I was ready at 5:30. I was trying to figure out which shirt to wear and how to look smooth. You know what I mean? It's like I was like a child. I was shaking a little bit, I must confess. Because when things are important to me, I pay a lot of attention to them and I get het up. It gets you. Anyway, I thought, well, do I go there first and wait, or will I just approach her? I'll do the big entrance, I thought. Me, a big entrance in this open bar. It was the evening, people were sitting outside having beer. Anyway, I thought, okay, well, I'll time it right. I won't look too cocky, but I might be 5 minutes late. Keep them late. Treat them mean and keep them keen. Oh, yeah, right. I was really keen, but I didn't want to show it too much. So, off I strut. And I caught her sitting at the bar, and she was like with a handbag looking around, and I thought, oh, I'm surprised guys were looking. I knew guys were looking at us walking by. She was nice. And I had a thing for blondes, absolutely did. And I noticed guys were looking at her. I thought, I approached. And she smiled as I approached and said, oh, I said, oh, hello. And, she didn't say anything. I thought, oh, she smiled, she got up and, I said, do you want something to drink? And I settled down and, just, well, I suppose, I did the talking and she did the listening. I thought, this is strange. And she was like, I thought, well, yeah, can she understand me? I thought, well, I just was transfixed by her beauty, to be honest with you. I was just quite content to look at her. But obviously I had to talk. I had to break the ice. And usual thing, I totally screwed up the initial conversation. I wasn't being me. I was trying to be something I wasn't. So we tend to put this little barrier up, don't we, until we get to know someone. It's like, not really me, but I'm pretending to be so wonderful. And until she finds out the chinks in my armour. And I motioned over the old waiter to come and get us a menu. And I said, yeah, I passed on to her. And she just raised her voice and grabbed it. Didn't say a word. I thought it was very strange. And I was being quite critical. I was trying to pick fault, but I couldn't find any, quite frankly. She was heaven. She was truly lovely. Immaculate. I thought, why is she out with a thug like me at the time? I thought, she's too good for me, I almost felt sorry for her. And yeah, truly, how arrogant. Anyway, and I said, well, I've decided what I'm having. What are you having? And then my world collapsed because I leant over to, listen to what she had to say about what she was going to choose. I was like, oh my God, it was the worst northern accent. Now, I was born in Yorkshire. Okay, I know Yorkshire very well, but I hadn't got the accent. I'd got out of that. But I can understand it. But I wasn't right thinking about that. I think I wasn't too sure, to be honest with you. My mind's not made up right, I thought, oh my God, that is. I thought, oh dear, shut your mouth quick. Not me, her. Just don't burst you've burst my bubble now. It really was like, oh God. I thought the sudden flash through my mind is she's got to shut her mouth because every sentence is driving me up the wall. I can barely understand her. She doesn't seem to give a rip who's overhearing her. She's loud. And, when I was at uni, you think, oh, shh, keep it down a bit. There are people looking very loud, and I thought she must be deaf. No, either that or she doesn't care. I think that was more to the point, because northern girls tell it like it is, trust me, that's what's lovely about them. But her whole voice didn't match the beauty. And as shallow as I am, I was a real shallow hal about this. You'll know the film, but I was a shallow hal on this occasion. I thought, what's going through my mind was, if I'm going to make love with this girl, for want of a better phrase, keeping it a family show, I better put my hand over her mouth. Because I'll lose all form of interest if she speaks, and it'll be embarrassing. She'll think I'm impotent. Or premature shutting her mouth. She'll think I'm into gagging, or maybe I should have put a sort of one of those things, a gimp mask on her, like a ball, and you strap it round their head. All this was flashing through my mind a million miles an hour, and I was thinking, how am I going to deal with this? No wonder she hasn't got a boyfriend. Such beauty, But I thought God works in mysterious ways, and she was terrific in all other ways. Her sense of humour was a bit, she was a bit like one of the lads, when I was at uni, and you just had to accept that she was absolutely the salt of the earth, but she was simply stunning. Okay, about the fifth time I've said that. I can remember her face. She had me at, she lost me at hello, to be frank. She had me the moment I saw her. The moment those photons from her body reflected back into my eyes, it was it. But I just wish she was a mute. I could sell 1 million if she was a mute. But, oh, dear me. Needless to say, there wasn't a second date, because, to be honest, I think that despite her beauty, she would have been an embarrassment to be carting around my friends and family. Because as judgmental as people are, they do judge a book by what comes out of their mouth, not necessarily what's on the cover. And, yeah, she was very intelligent, but not that intelligent to make any impact on the horrible accent and the way she come across. Right, northern-like, anything. She needs some guy from North Yorkshire, or Bolton, that end of the woods, who's going to adore her, and they will. But the point I'm trying to make is how important it is, and we judge people very quickly by what they look like. And we shouldn't. Because that's only half the story, isn't it? Because we can get smiling assassins who are real nasty people. But I watch the occasional American film, But I do watch the news sometimes, the CNN, claptrap no news, just to see what Donald Trump, the carrot, is up to. And I just watch it while I'm eating my dinner or something. I turn it off when I finish, otherwise it'll make me sick. But one of the things is, no matter how beautiful these newscasters are on CNN, and they are simply beautiful, they're chosen for their long legs, and they keep swapping their legs over them. They're what they call bungalows. It's all downstairs. There's nothing upstairs. Do you know what I mean? Bungalows. But the worst thing is, and it brought back such memories, which I've just explained, when they look stunning and then they open their mouths and they come out with this goddamn awful American accent. You know. The Dow Jones, you think, oh God, beam me up, Scotty. If there's one bunch of women I find unattractive in this world, purely on the grounds of the way they speak, quite frankly, and many on the way they look, but mostly, you know, I find that if I want a repeat performance of what happened to me, and I want reminding of it, believe me, I try to forget it. I just watch an American program, or I'm forced to when my daughter comes home, she watches telly. And there it is, you know, even a version of Friends with the women that start squawking. And it is a squawk. Well, Davey did that, wow. You think, oh God, no. I don't know how American men put up with it. Because it's such a whine, you know. And it's like, how do you know a plane full of American women have landed at the airport at Heathrow? How do you know? Because when the pilots turn the engines off, you can still hear the whining. That's why. Oh, whine and whine and whinge and whine and yarn, and you think, oh. And everything seems to be in the American women, from what I see. It's all kippers and curtains. It's all glitz and glamour, cheap makeup, their clothes. They're either sublime or they're ridiculous, aren't they? There's no middle ground. And I can forgive the middle ground. It's a good place to be. And if she's not a looker, I think, well, maybe she's really clever. That's a good compliment. I would rather go out with a girl who's not a looker but so super intelligent and can convey that and keep my mind occupied, because looks is temporary and dumb is forever, isn't it, really? So I did learn that by trial and error, I must confess. But apart from the physiotherapist that didn't last a second date, and I felt a real pig for doing that, and I said, Dick, I'm sorry, but the excuses I made was my workload, I got all this study to do, yada yada yada. It's just a drink, But she had been told such a bunch of BS by my mate to her that I was really interested in her, and I'd been admiring her for weeks, and he'd laid all the groundwork, bless him, and he did too good a job, because she was quite upset that I didn't want to see her again. And I can't stand the way you speak, honey, so get lost. Just keep your mouth shut as you walk away. I didn't want to. I had to sort of avoid her. I thought she was a coward. Why should I? I didn't want to tell her the truth, although the truth would set me free. But it's the same with American women. But some of the biggest cads, from a woman's point of view, some of the biggest women are seduced by some of the world's biggest cads, who could speak like they've been to Oxford or Cambridge, And, Oxford and Cambridge, you tend not to pick up an accent. It's very Oxford brogue, it's a very upper class sort of accent. I don't generally have an accent because I didn't have a chance, I didn't stay in one place long enough to develop it. Now, rather strangely, my brother lives in Staffordshire and he's picked up the Staffordshire accent. My other brother lives in Norfolk and he's a right old Norfolk boy. He's got to change it down a mark. He's lost he's lost it. But we were all brought up as children not to have an accent. My father didn't have an accent, and my mother lost her Scottish accent by power of association with a bunch of English. So there we are. But how it is that the way you speak, people judge people by so many things, but ultimately, once the novelty of the looks, you got used to the way that somebody looks, you become familiar with them. You then start to look at the finer points. And equally, some of the ugliest people are some of the nicest speaking. And eventually, you see, it's not all about looks, is it? It's about what's in here, what's in their heart. Can you look past the looks? And that's what I recommend you do. Because, as I say, beauty is temporary and dumb is forever. You've got to look past. And, yeah, my wife was a looker, continues to be. Lost a little bit of the shine, of course, and so have I. But I think it's important that I instill in my children, and maybe you do with yours too, don't judge everybody by the way they look. Judge them more by the way they speak. Okay? If, ideally you'd like a balance, you'd like a beauty that speaks like a princess, wouldn't you? But quite rare. One of them is false. It's very rare you get a good looker who speaks stunningly and well. There's always one's better than the other. So you've got to be on your guard when you're checking out for this. But I'm more interested in people who've got a good nature and a good soul and a good heart. And I know some pretty classy women who are utter bitches. And they know, you see, they treat their husbands and boyfriends like crap because they think they're better than him, because they can just click their fingers and get another sucker. And the number of men that, the collateral damage and the wake of broken hearts behind her is indicative of the way she acts. You think, oh, who's she going out with this week? Oh, another one. Now, is it her dismissing them, or is it them running away like crazy the other opposite direction? So this is all about people watching. But I have had my fill of experience, thanks very much. And I think that the best way would be to have more than one date. Have several before you commit, or don't drop them on the first date, ladies. Okay, I mean your syllables. Whatever. Be careful, because you can get some smooth-tongued guys, who are utter bastards. For the first few dates, they might be wonderful and Prince Charming and all this, but sooner or later, you see, look into my eyes, they can be quite hypnotic. Not mine, but theirs. And they're beguiling the women. And these are the con men. These are the ones that seduce women and think they're God's gift. And the women fall for it. And it's always strange that beautiful women fall for cads, don't they? As the cads seem to... I hope that women listen to this video as well and realise that not all 6-foot hunks who speak fantastically beautiful without an accent. I mean, there's something not quite right about Mary about them, is there? Especially if they're long-term single. Because anyone who really has got a good pedigree, to be frank, in America, most women, if they haven't been snapped up and married by some decent guy, there's something wrong with the woman. Because Americans are prolific, they're prolific obsessives about having a date or being single. Now in America there's this thing called men going their own way, MGTTOW, men going their own way. And now there is a mass shortage of decent men for the women, because they've taken the red pill, quite frankly, and realised that it's a buyer's world, not a seller's world in America for the men now. it's flipped. Men have woken up and smelt the coffee because the legal system is so biased against the men. Because women always tend to get what they want. They drop a sprog, they are suddenly pregnant, they're getting their maintenance, man will go to prison or a detachment of earnings. And this whole thing is amplified because it's American, of course. Everything's bigger, better, faster. And, men are rebelling and they're saying, no, we don't want a girlfriend. We don't want the hassle anymore. We don't want the grief. We want our lives. And to be honest, we're not taking the shit anymore. And I think it'll come the same way in the UK as well, eventually, because we always do things about 5 years behind America. But a lot of eligible men, I suppose, have taken the red pill and are shying away from women. And have to recognise, you see, once women are 25 plus, I know it seems so young, but 25 plus, they're on the slippery slope. They start to degrade around about 26, quite frankly. They either have a child, so they're single parents, because the boyfriend did a runner, or the sperm donor did, or the other reason that they're single and left with the kid, okay, not that they want the kid particularly, but they're left with it, is the guy can't take it anymore. She's made his life a bloody misery, and she's become a control freak with tits. I know there's both sides to the stories, but fundamentally then, that there is now a crisis going on in America where the women are left on the shelf, and there is a shortage. There was a big meeting arranged a few months ago, speed dating. It was advertised everywhere, apparently. Just looking at the fire. Advertised everywhere. And about 58 women turned up, and 2 men. Just 2 men turned up. And it's quite amazing. And everybody said, why? He says, well, the men don't want to date anymore. They don't want relationships. They want a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. They can get that, I'm sure. But now it's coming to the UK. Women past 24, 25, if they're not engaged, they're either overweight, they've let themselves go, they don't know how to treat their boyfriends, or they've got kids. And the biggest no-no, of course, is that the single parents are finding it extremely hard to find a fella now to support them. It takes a lot for a man to take on another man's child. It's, especially when there's so many other girls that haven't got the baggage. But men just don't want to do this. They've suddenly got wise. Because, well, quite frankly, it's hard work having a relationship with someone who wants to buy a house, have kids and settle down. And young men don't mature as quick as young women. That's the frightening bit. But in America it seems the other way around. Okay. The men mature far quicker than the women because the women are spoilt brats. Everything's done for them. Everything's geared towards their way, legally. And it's the men who get the sharp end of the stick. Well, I've rattled on long enough. I trust myself half an hour, so there we are. But don't judge me too hard. It all works out in the end. And I often think about that physiotherapist. I really do. I wonder if ever I did the right thing, but, well, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I just didn't really want to meet the right nice dad I got right up north who likes cricket, and pigeon racing. Yes. And it's too bloody cold to go up and meet the relatives up north. Catch you later, folks. Be careful. All that glitters is not always gold. It just looks that way. Learn by other people's mistakes.